why would Connacht not be trying to convince the IRFU to pay for Ronan O'Gara or somebody of that ilk to come? Why do they have to go fishing around for names in the Southern Hemisphere that we don't know and who don't fully understand the culture?
Well, they don't have to do that. They will be going for the guy that they think. Well, if you're sitting in that kind of boardroom, you're coming up with a short list, and I assume you're starting at the very top, and then you're trying to mirror that and match that to the income available, the revenues available to actually pay for this guy, whoever it might be. So if you're thinking of the best possible guys to take this job, certainly Ronan O'Gara would be on the list, wouldn't it? Like, if you're looking to give it to an assistant coach who's on an upward trajectory and has what you would appear to have a really bright future out of him. Now, whether or not you can afford that, that's where the RFU come in. I don't think Kieran Keane would have been on as much as Pat Lam would have been, for example, certainly in his last year or two.
And you would assume that somebody like Ronan O'Gara is going to bring massive corporate support. Like, suddenly everybody wants to see what's happening there because O'Gara is in charge.
It would work wonders on and off the field, no question about it. We talked about this last week when we were discussing the vacancy that's now at Ulster. Well, it was a vacancy when we talked about it last week, and now seems to have been filled by McFarlane. But that it was the worst possible time, we put this to Stephen Ferris, to be looking for a new head coach in the April before a World Cup year, because nobody's really going to want to make their move until after the World Cup. All the top international head coaches, they're obviously firmly ensconced until the World Cup is done in Japan, and a lot of the club coaches of other clubs are looking at some vacancies at international jobs that might come up for availability once the World Cup is done. But O'Gara doesn't really fall into either of those camps. Now, is he going to up sticks and leave Crusaders after one season? I'd be surprised.
Maybe.
Like, if he's down there to try and gain the experience of a different culture and a different way of doing things and arguably the best coaches in the world, does he want to leave that after a year?
Ideally, you'd have a full season or 2 full seasons, but opportunities like this might not necessarily come around.
Is the Connacht job an attractive one from a Ronan O'Gara point of view?
I think it is, and I'll tell you why. Because I think that the Munster job has a very young coach in situ at the moment, and the South Africa job has... so if you're Van Graan, you're like, well, my next job is going to be hopefully international rugby or one of the massive Super Rugby franchises. But actually, the Munster job is just as good as any of those Super Rugby franchises. So there's in place a coaching ticket in Munster that doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere for quite a while. The Ireland situation is going to be pretty interesting after the World Cup. David Nucifora is on the record as saying that only coaches within the Irish system are going to be considered for the Irish international coaching job, which means that there are 2 candidates for that, Stuart Lancaster and Andy Farrell at the moment. Like, if Ronan O'Gara wants to be part of that ticket at some point, come back, do Ireland, do Connacht all the way up until the World Cup, and then after that you could be part of the Ireland coaching ticket alongside a Lancaster or a Farrell. Like, you're a professional coach, you're thinking, you have to think 1 step / 2 steps ahead and go, well, how do I get myself into a situation where I get back into the Irish system at some point?
Well, I would say if that is what is in O'Gara's mind, we're speculating as to what might be in his mind, but then Connacht do not need Ronan O'Gara then. Connacht need a guy who's going to be able to come in, lay the foundation, lay out a roadmap of 3, 4, 5 years in duration, pretty much what Pat Lam did, convince them that your vision is the way to go. I think someone who's just coming in for a couple of years,
well, maybe it's
definitely
the
not
Ireland
what
job
Connacht need.